Love rarely begins where people think it does. It does not always start with perfect looks, impressive money, incredible confidence, or finding the perfect sentence to say at exactly the right moment. Sometimes, the most powerful shift happens quietly, in a conversation where a person feels understood in a way they did not expect. And that is where this topic becomes far more interesting, because the fastest way to create attraction is not necessarily to chase harder, impress more, or make someone think about you every second. In fact, trying too hard can have the opposite effect. The more desperately you try to prove your value, the more the interaction can start feeling like a performance. Real connection works differently. People naturally become more comfortable around someone who listens, pays attention, respects their boundaries, and allows them to be themselves. There is also a lesser-known psychological process behind this. When two people gradually share personal thoughts, experiences, fears, dreams, and small details about their lives, a simple conversation can slowly become something much deeper. But there is a catch. You cannot force this process, and you cannot use psychology as a remote control for another person's emotions. Love is not a button you press. It is something that develops when attraction, trust, emotional safety, curiosity, and mutual effort begin moving in the same direction. In this video, you will learn why trying to impress someone can actually weaken attraction, how making a person feel genuinely seen can create a deeper connection, why gradual self-disclosure can make conversations more intimate, why emotional experiences often matter more than impressive words, and why giving someone space can sometimes make your presence more meaningful. You will also discover why letting the other person invest in you matters, why authenticity can be more powerful than trying to become their perfect match, and why emotional safety may be one of the most overlooked parts of attraction. And stay until the end, because the final idea changes the entire meaning of the title. The real goal is not learning how to control someone's feelings, it is learning how to create the kind of connection where genuine feelings have room to grow. Once you understand that difference, attraction becomes much easier to understand. So, if you want to learn the psychology behind genuine attraction without manipulation or empty tricks, stay with us until the end. Welcome to our channel, and if you enjoy psychology, human behavior, and the hidden forces behind relationships, make sure to subscribe and join us for more. There is a powerful difference between being noticed and being truly seen. Someone can notice your appearance, hear your words, remember your name, and still not feel deeply connected to you. But when a person feels that you genuinely understand them, the emotional experience can be completely different. This is one of the most overlooked parts of attraction because it does not look dramatic from the outside. It can happen through a simple question, a thoughtful response, or the way you remember a small detail they mentioned days earlier. When you are talking to someone you like, it is easy to focus on what you should say next. You may be thinking about how to sound confident, how to make them laugh, or how to keep their attention. But while you are planning your next sentence, you may be missing the most important information in the conversation. Their words are telling you who they are. The story behind their answer may reveal what they value, what they fear, what makes them proud, what disappointed them, or what they secretly want from life. This is why good communication is not simply about asking more questions. It is about paying attention to the meaning behind the answers. Instead of asking question after question like an interview, slow down and respond to what the person actually gives you. If they mention that they changed careers because they wanted more freedom, do not immediately jump to another topic. Ask what freedom means to them. If they casually mention that they still visit a certain place because it reminds them of their childhood, notice that detail. If they become more animated while talking about a particular goal, recognize the emotion behind it. You are not collecting information. You are learning how this person experiences the world. That difference matters because people can usually sense when someone is listening only to keep the conversation moving, and when someone is genuinely interested in understanding them. Emotional attention is different from ordinary attention. Ordinary attention hears the words. Emotional attention notices the person behind the words. And when someone repeatedly experiences that kind of attention around you, the interaction can begin to feel unusually comfortable. They may start sharing more because they do not feel like they have to fight for your attention. They may become less guarded because they feel that their thoughts are being received instead of judged. This is where another psychological process becomes important: reciprocal self-disclosure. Research on relationships has repeatedly explored how revealing personal information can influence feelings of closeness and liking. When people gradually share meaningful information about themselves, conversations can move beyond surface-level interaction. But the important word is gradually. Healthy connection is not created by one person opening the emotional floodgates while the other person simply listens. Reciprocity matters. If someone shares a personal experience, you can offer something personal in return. If they tell you about a difficult lesson they learned, you might share a lesson from your own life. If they talk about a dream they have been afraid to pursue, you can reveal a goal that matters to you. This creates a subtle feeling of balance. Both people are taking a small emotional risk. Both are giving the other person access to a more private part of themselves. Over time, that exchange can create the feeling that the two of you are moving beyond ordinary conversation and entering a more personal space. The connection becomes less about performing and more about revealing. But there is an important limit that many people misunderstand. More vulnerability does not automatically create more attraction. Opening up too much, too quickly, can feel overwhelming, uncomfortable, or even inappropriate when trust has not developed yet. Emotional intimacy has a rhythm. One person shares something, the other responds, trust increases, and then another layer becomes possible. You do not need to reveal every painful experience from your past on the first few conversations. You do not need to explain every insecurity, every failure, every relationship, or every private thought just to prove that you are emotionally available. In fact, leaving parts of your life to be discovered naturally can make the relationship feel more authentic. When everything is revealed immediately, there is no natural process of discovery. But when you gradually allow someone to know different sides of you, they get the chance to understand your personality through repeated experiences rather than through one intense conversation. The same principle applies to the other person. Let them decide how much they want to share. If they become quiet after revealing something personal, do not pressure them for more. If they change the subject, allow the conversation to move naturally. Trust grows when people feel that they control the pace of their own vulnerability. This is why emotional connection cannot be rushed like a formula. It develops through small moments that build upon one another. One conversation may create curiosity, another may create comfort, another may create laughter, another may reveal a shared value. Eventually, these separate moments can begin forming a larger emotional pattern. This leads to another important part of attraction: emotional experiences. People often focus too much on the words they use and not enough on how an interaction feels. They search for clever messages, perfect compliments, impressive stories, or lines that are supposed to create instant attraction. But relationships are not built from individual sentences. They are built from experiences. A person may forget exactly what you said during a conversation, but they may remember how relaxed they felt around you. They may remember laughing with you after a difficult day. They may remember feeling encouraged when they doubted themselves. They may remember that you listened when everyone else was distracted. They may remember that they could be quiet around you without feeling uncomfortable. These experiences create emotional associations. The more positive and authentic interactions two people share, the more familiar the connection can begin to feel. This does not mean you should constantly try to create excitement or manufacture emotional moments. That would turn the relationship into another performance. Instead, allow ordinary moments to have value. Talk about things that genuinely interest both of you. Laugh when something is actually funny. Share an opinion instead of automatically agreeing. Ask about the things that matter to them. Let conversations move naturally from serious topics to completely ordinary ones. A meaningful connection does not need to feel intense every second. Sometimes the strongest sign of comfort is the ability to enjoy simple moments without needing to constantly entertain each other. And beneath all of this is another quality that can completely change the way attraction develops: emotional safety. Attraction is often described as excitement, chemistry, tension, mystery, or desire. Those things can matter, but excitement alone does not create a healthy emotional bond. A person also needs to feel safe enough to be themselves. If someone constantly feels judged, tested, criticized, pressured, or manipulated, they may become emotionally guarded even if there is physical attraction. Emotional safety means they can express an opinion without worrying that you will attack them for it. They can disagree with you without fearing that you will punish them with silence or anger. They can tell you that they need space without being made to feel guilty. They can share a weakness without having that weakness used against them later. This kind of safety does not mean becoming passive or agreeing with everything. It means being emotionally predictable in a healthy way. Your kindness should not disappear whenever you do not get what you want. Your respect should not depend on whether the other person gives you attention. Your behavior should not change dramatically every time you feel insecure. When someone realizes that they can be honest around you without constantly managing your reaction, the relationship can become much more relaxed, and that relaxation can create a type of closeness that cannot be produced through pressure. You are no longer trying to convince someone to like you. You are giving them the freedom to discover who you are while showing them that their own personality has room to exist beside yours. That is where being seen, sharing gradually, creating positive experiences, and feeling emotionally safe begin to connect into one larger process. The person is not simply remembering your words, they are beginning to associate your presence with understanding, comfort, curiosity, trust, and genuine emotional connection, and that association can quietly influence how they experience the relationship over time. There is a point in attraction where constant presence can actually become less powerful than meaningful presence. When you genuinely like someone, the natural instinct is often to move closer. You want to talk all the time, reply immediately, know what they are doing, and make sure they never forget you. But there is a difference between being available and being constantly accessible. Being available means you are present when it matters. Constant access means there is no space for the other person to experience your absence, and that space can matter. When someone has the opportunity to miss you, they have the opportunity to notice what your presence adds to their life. This does not mean disappearing without explanation, ignoring messages, delaying replies on purpose, or using silence as a psychological weapon. Those are games, and games may create anxiety, but anxiety is not the same thing as love. Healthy space works differently. You continue living your own life. You have work, hobbies, friendships, goals, responsibilities, interests, and things that make you feel fulfilled even when the other person is not around. This changes the emotional dynamic because your relationship becomes part of your life rather than your entire life. When you have your own direction, you bring new experiences and energy into the relationship instead of constantly waiting for the other person to provide meaning for you. There is also a deeper psychological reason this matters. When an experience is repeated without interruption, people can sometimes become less aware of its emotional impact because it becomes familiar. But when there is healthy variation between connection and personal space, each interaction can retain more meaning. You begin to appreciate moments together, instead of treating access to each other as an unlimited resource. That is why having your own life can make your presence feel more valuable without requiring you to manufacture scarcity. You are not trying to make someone chase you, you are simply refusing to abandon yourself in order to keep someone interested. And this naturally leads to another important part of attraction: letting the other person invest. A connection becomes very different when only one person is doing all the work. If you always initiate the conversation, always plan the meetings, always check in first, always solve problems, always offer support, and always make the emotional effort, the relationship can become unbalanced without either person noticing it immediately. You may think you are showing how much you care, but you may also be removing every opportunity for the other person to demonstrate what they feel. Sometimes you need to stop filling every empty space and allow the other person to step forward. Let them message you because they want to. Let them suggest a plan. Let them ask about your day. Let them remember something you told them. Let them make an effort to see you. These small actions matter because attraction is not only about what someone feels when they receive your attention. It is also about what they experience when they choose to give attention to you. Human beings tend to value experiences in which they actively participate. When someone invests time, energy, attention, vulnerability, or effort into a relationship, that relationship can become more personally meaningful to them. This does not mean you should manipulate someone into investing. It means you should stop doing the entire relationship alone. If they care, give them room to show it. If they want to know you, let them ask questions. If they want to be closer, let them take steps toward you. This creates something much healthier than chasing because both people become participants rather than one person becoming the pursuer and the other becoming the person being pursued. And there is another mistake people make when they want someone to fall in love with them. They start becoming whoever they think the other person wants. They change their opinions. They pretend to like the same music. They suddenly adopt the same hobbies. They agree with everything. They hide parts of their personality because they are afraid those parts might reduce attraction. At first, this can feel like a smart strategy. If you discover what someone likes, why not become more like that? But there is a problem. Attraction built around a performance becomes difficult to maintain because eventually the performance becomes exhausting. You cannot spend an entire relationship monitoring every sentence, adjusting every opinion, and wondering whether your real personality is acceptable. Authenticity is powerful because it allows the other person to respond to the real you. Similarity can sometimes help people connect, but attraction is far more complicated than simply finding someone who has the same interests or personality. Sometimes differences create curiosity. Sometimes shared values matter more than shared hobbies. Sometimes two people can have completely different personalities and still feel deeply connected because they respect each other's way of seeing the world. The important question is not, how can I become their perfect match? The better question is, can we genuinely appreciate each other without either person pretending? That question changes everything. Instead of trying to perform attractiveness, you start developing a life and personality that are attractive because they are real. You can still improve yourself. You can become more confident, disciplined, emotionally intelligent, and socially skilled. But you are improving because you value yourself, not because you are trying to earn someone's approval. That difference can be felt. People often notice when someone is desperately trying to be liked. The conversation may sound perfect, but there is tension underneath it. Every joke becomes a test. Every message becomes a calculation. Every response becomes evidence of whether the person is interested. Authenticity removes some of that pressure because you are no longer treating every interaction like an examination. You can express an opinion. You can disagree respectfully. You can admit that you do not know something. You can say what you actually enjoy. You can allow the other person to discover that you are not perfect. And strangely enough, imperfection can make connection feel more real because there is no expectation that either person has to perform a flawless version of themselves. This brings us to the larger question of what actually allows love to grow. There is rarely one magical moment that creates deep feelings. More often, attraction develops through a series of small experiences that begin reinforcing one another. Someone feels seen because you genuinely listen. They become comfortable because you respect their boundaries. They become curious because they gradually discover different sides of your personality. They feel closer because you share personal thoughts with each other. They enjoy your presence because your interactions create laughter, comfort, excitement, or meaningful conversation. They invest because you give them room to participate. They miss you because you have a life beyond the relationship. And they trust the connection because you remain authentic, instead of constantly changing yourself to keep their attention. Each element can strengthen the others. Attention creates understanding. Understanding creates comfort. Comfort can make vulnerability easier. Vulnerability can create intimacy. Intimacy can make positive experiences more meaningful. Positive experiences can encourage more investment. And mutual investment can make the relationship feel increasingly personal. But none of this guarantees that someone will fall in love with you. That is an important reality. You can do everything right and still discover that the other person does not feel the same way. Attraction depends on two people, not one person's perfect strategy. Timing matters, compatibility matters, personal circumstances matter, emotional readiness matters. Values matter, and sometimes two good people simply do not create the right romantic connection. That does not mean you failed. It means love cannot be reduced to a formula. What you can control is the quality of the connection you bring into someone's life. You can listen instead of performing. You can share instead of pretending. You can create positive experiences without forcing emotional intensity. You can respect boundaries instead of testing them. You can maintain your own identity instead of disappearing into another person's world. You can give them opportunities to invest instead of carrying the entire relationship yourself. And you can allow attraction to develop at a natural pace instead of trying to force an outcome before trust has had time to grow. When those qualities begin working together, the relationship no longer feels like a strategy designed to make someone fall for you. It starts feeling like two people discovering whether something real exists between them, one interaction at a time. The fastest way to make someone fall in love with you was never really about making them fall. It was about creating the kind of connection where love has a genuine chance to grow. You cannot control another person's heart with a psychological trick. You cannot manufacture feelings, force chemistry, or make someone truly care through manipulation. And trying to create obsession is not the same as creating love. Real attraction becomes powerful when someone feels seen, understood, respected, and free to be themselves around you. Let them discover the real you instead of presenting a carefully designed version of yourself. Give them space to miss you. Give them opportunities to invest. Listen when they speak. Remember the little things. Share your own thoughts gradually. Create moments that feel meaningful rather than constantly trying to impress them. Most importantly, let them choose you. Because there is a huge difference between controlling someone's attraction and creating genuine connection. Control asks, how can I make this person want me? Connection asks, can we build something that both of us genuinely want? And that second question is where real love begins. The most attractive person is not always the one with the perfect appearance, the perfect words, or the perfect strategy. Sometimes it is the person who makes you feel safe enough to be yourself, while remaining completely comfortable being themselves too. So if someone chooses you after seeing the real you, that feeling means far more than anything you could have forced. Love becomes meaningful when it is freely given, freely received, and built by two people moving toward each other without games. And maybe that is the real secret behind the fastest way to make someone fall in love with you. Stop trying to control the outcome, and start becoming someone worth genuinely connecting with. If this video gave you a new perspective on attraction, relationships, and human psychology, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more powerful psychology insights. Like this video if you found it valuable, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And remember, you do not need to chase love when you are building a connection that gives love a reason to stay.